ready.
Welcome to another episode of Buff in the Rough. Today we're going to talk to David Sawyer about what it's like to be a professional handler in the world of competitive rabbit hunting. We're going to hear his advice for newcomers to the sport and get the skinny on some of the craziest things he's ever seen while he's been out on a hunt, and a whole lot more. Help me welcome David Sawyer to the program. Well, hey David, how are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Oh, I can't complain. I really appreciate you taking the time out today to talk to us a little bit. And I think you're going to be a really interesting guy to talk to. And folks are going to be really interested to hear what you have to say. And we're going to talk a little bit about different formats of hunting, a little different than what I usually cover. And then talk about being a professional handler, which I think is going to be really interesting too. But before we get started with that, would you mind to just share a little bit, tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe how you got into hunting, or maybe even more specifically rabbit hunting?
Yes, sir. Well, my name's David Sawyer, and I'm from Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. Both my grandpas, my great-grandpa, my dad have always had hunting vehicles, so it wasn't hard for me to get started. I was born into it, and been doing it all my life. When I was a kid, we first got introduced to the SPO, AKC Beagles. I don't know, I was probably 4 or 5 years old. We've always rabbit hunted. We started field trialing. My dad actually handled professionally for about 15 years. And I don't know, about 4 years ago, I decided that's what I was going to do. Been doing it ever since.
Well, that sounds like fun. So can you describe what an SPO type beagle hunts like? Can you describe a little bit about an SPO beagle?
Well, they're AKC registered beagles, the competitions that we do. An SPO beagle is supposed to be promoted for an all-around hunting beagle. So we want hunt, we want line control, we want accountability for the game, is what it should really all boil down to, is what dog are you going to take out today and kill a rabbit over the best, and that's what our judges should be striving for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, as you've done this over the years, I know you've probably had some favorite hounds that you've personally hunted and campaigned, but would you want to talk about some of those that stood out to you as your favorites over the years?
Yeah, I guess, we had beagles all of our life. My dad and a buddy of his back in the 90s bought a female from Sam Butler in Glen Cole named Choctaw, Scott County Tree. And she's kind of the foundation of everything we do in a roundabout way. I remember hunting with her when I was younger, but the first one that really stood out to me was field champion Crank's Chicken, who's in the SBO Hall of Fame now. Chicken was born when I was probably 17. And that was the first real field champion that I had something to do with training and handling. And then I've got a male now named field champion wrapped around Big Mo D, and he's been the AKC or the Purina High Point Hound of the Year, outstanding field trial beagle twice, won the AKC Nationals, won the UBGF Nationals, the Deep South Nationals. That's probably my favorite hound that I've ever owned.
Mm-hmm.
He's got, I don't know, I think 27 wins total and over 1,200 points. Where we ran him for Purina points, he got enough wins and points to have finished 10 times as a field champion in AKC.
Well, I can understand why he's one of your favorites. So, what? Describe him. I mean, what does he look like? How big of a dog is he? How does he hunt? What's helped him be so successful?
Yeah, so in AKC we have 4 classes: 13-inch males, 15-inch males, and 13-inch females and 15-inch females. He's about a 14 3/4-inch tricolor male. And Mo's been real special since he was young. His biggest attribute is probably his brain. He's one of the smartest dogs that I've ever been around. he adapts well to all conditions, all terrain. Doesn't really matter. You can throw him down in a pack of 9 dogs, and he focuses on running the rabbit. It's always been focused for Mo. He's really the only. I tell people he's the only dog in our format that. Our format's not off a point system. It's judged by 2 judges, and it's sometimes it probably shouldn't be, but it's subjective to the style of hound that those people like. And that's probably the only dog I've ever had. It didn't matter what 2 judges were judging that day. He was going to be there at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for sharing about some of your personal favorite hounds. And as you've been out there all these years competing against other people, what are some of the, tell us a little bit about what are some of the best hounds you've hunted against, some of the tougher dogs that you've seen?
And there's a big list of them. I think one that stands out, I remember I was only 10 years old in 1996 at the AKC SBL Nationals. I remember a little male belonged to a guy named Mark West out in Western Kentucky. That was 18 years or 28 years ago, I guess. Good Lord. But I remember a male named King Cutter Casey put on a show that I can still remember today. And I was 10 years old. He dominated a 9-dog winners pack at the AKC SBL Nationals, led them around like a train. It was one of the most impressive runs I've seen still today. That's one that really sticks out in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Seen a lot of other performances from hounds. It kind of slips my mind with some of the great ones right now.
Well, that's okay. Well, let me ask you this. As you've been out there hunting in these competition hunts, I know you've had some things that really that stick with you, those most memorable moments. So would you walk us through maybe it's some of your biggest wins, maybe it's some of those toughest losses. But could you talk us through maybe some of your favorite memories?
Yeah, I think the one that sticks out the most was in 2021, the AKC Nationals. I hadn't been handling dogs for a living for very long, and I went to the AKC Nationals and entered dogs in 3 classes and won all 3 classes. That's probably something I'll never be able to top, for the rest of my life.
Wow.
I remember when I was 18, the first dog I ever paid money for myself was a male named Caddy. I named him Rapid Run Little Caddy. And I remember finishing him. He was the first steel champion when I got my first job, I spent my own money and bought my first dog, buying it myself. Mm-hmm. A little different breed, and I remember the day he finished. That was pretty special.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, as you get ready for these hunts, and you're getting that dog ready for that trial, what's the secret to it? I mean, how do you go about getting your hound ready for that upcoming trial?
Well, I tell everybody all dogs are different. I think the only way to truly get a dog ready is to figure a dog out, what makes it tick and what makes it do what it does. And I think they're all a little different. Some hounds need some solo running. Some hounds need trioing or bracing. Some dogs need to be pulled up a little bit. And some dogs, their confidence need to be built up. I think every dog is different. Mm-hmm. I think look at each dog individually and really spend the time and put the hours behind them to figure out what makes that dog tick and what makes it its best.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people these days, in our sport anyway, our side of it, have got their own running pins and they throw dogs out there and let them run for hours. And you're really not learning anything from the dog or what makes it the best, and it's not learning anything from you. So I think the most important thing is spending time out there behind the dogs, following them, and figure out what they're doing and why they're doing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what does it take to win? I mean, if you had to describe what kind of dog does it take to win, what does that look like?
Well, I think there's a variety of different ways that dogs can win, but a dog with hunt and brains and nose, flow on the line, has always got an advantage. I think it's us as trainers to get the best of the ability out of this dog. But I think a gritty dog that works hard and has good flow on the line and a good nose a smart dog, you're always got a leg up on everybody else. Now, so I'm just on you to get out there and train it and make it the best it can be and go win with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think most of us probably started out just pleasure hunting, just gun hunting. And what kind of advice would you give anyone out there that may be considering hunting and competition events?
I think probably the most important thing for somebody that wants to get into it is don't rush into it and buy everybody $200 or $300 or $400 coals. Go to competitions, go to all different formats, watch dogs run, figure out what you like and why you like that. And, either go spend some money and get you one really good dog or buy you some really good bred pups. But you need to go somewhere for a while and really watch some dogs run and figure out why you like, what the bloodline is, the positives and the negatives of it, and really put a little time and research into it because, and it's on us as breeders and dog owners too. There's too many guys out there. When guys want to get into it, they want to sell them their coals, and that's as far as competition hunting. That's the quickest way to get a guy in and out. And we need to try to grow this sport and sell people good dogs and show them good dogs and help them out. And I think that's really one of the problems we got going is people see a new person as a sucker instead of helping them get a good dog if they do something.
Yeah. Now, you've mentioned hunting AKC, SPO. Do you hunt any other kinds of formats? And if so, what are your favorite formats?
Well, so really, I'm pretty strictly AKC. Mm-hmm. I've dabbled in the new UKC Beagle Dog Alliance a little bit, which is pretty much, it's a spinoff from the AKC SPO. Some guys, got with UKC and started a new format. And I think they're doing pretty well at that. But it's mostly AKC SPO, and I do run some AKC Gun Dog Brace, which is the same dogs, just a different format. It's a brace format. I prefer SPO. I prefer small pack option, pack trials.
Well, David, could you maybe describe that? Because I'm not sure that everybody's going to know exactly what that means. Could you describe an SPO, the pack option versus the brace option?
Yeah. So, AKC SPO is, it's just, take for example, we got 35 dogs entered that morning. Everybody have a number 1 through 35. And the small pack option, in first series and subsequent series all the way up to the winner's pack, dogs can be ran in packs of 4 to 7. Typically we run 7, but sometimes judges prefer to look at them in smaller packs, so they'll draw them out in packs of 4 to 7. And then dogs are eliminated throughout the day until you get to a winner's pack, and a winner's pack can be anywhere from 5 to 9 dogs. You can run up to 9 in a winner's pack, whereas you can only run 7 in earlier series. Mm-hmm. And dogs are eliminated to the point. You can't call field trial until there's 5 dogs on the ground. Typically, a lot of people run them down to 2 or 3. But until the judges have determined who the winner is for that day, that's the SPO format. And then the gun dog race format will be run in your first series will be run in 2 to 3 dogs. You'll score winners throughout, and then typically come back with 6 to 8 dogs. Even if there's 80 in a class, usually there's only 8, maybe 10 dogs that are even called back. And then you run, you actually be called back in order, say 1 through 8, 1 run against 2, 3 against 4, and then it's all head to head from there until there's a win.
Well, how are these dogs judged? So as the judges are watching them hunt, how do they score them? How do they get points? Or I know you said maybe not points, but how do they figure out who the winner is?
So in the AKC, the judging is a little bit subjective to the rule book. Dogs are they're to be cast to hunt, and they're supposed to be judged on their hunt. Typically, we're probably a little more lax on the hunt because of the enclosures than we should be in our format. Mm-hmm. We've gotten spoiled with enclosures that are full of rabbits, and it's taken a little bit of hunt out of some of our dogs. I like to rabbit hunt mine, so I like to think most of mine hunt pretty well. Mm-hmm. But A lot of these guys are just trialers, and they run in enclosures all the time, and rabbits are easy to find. And so that is what it is. But dogs are supposed to be judged on their line ability and staying in contact with the rabbit. You know, we typically don't want dogs. We want dogs running a rabbit, but not crashing a race constantly, not to be barked out of place. Dogs are supposed to be eliminated for faults. And, I mean, we could have a whole different discussion on the AKC rule book, but there's a list of faults in there that dogs are supposed to be judged by, but it is, I would say AKC, SBO, we're probably more spread out as far as style of dogs ran than any other kind of federation, because judging is subjective to your interpretation of the rule book. Not a straight point system, but that allows different people to compete in different areas under different judges. You got to kind of know who you're going to run under and what they're going to be looking for those days.
You mentioned running in enclosures. How big is an enclosure? Is there a minimum size? Is there a size one size that everybody has to have, or how does that work?
There's not size. There's and there's just, I'm sure you guys run into it too, just finding us land in the wild these days is hard to do. So a lot of these clubs have enclosed their running grounds, that own their running grounds, and there's enclosures out there that we trial in that are 10 acres, and there's enclosures like the UBGF running grounds, our federation's national running grounds. They've got 90-acre enclosures, so it's really a big difference.
Well, I find all that fascinating. Well, Dave, let me ask you this. This is kind of a loaded question, but if you could design the perfect beagle for you, what would it look like? What would it sound like? How would it hunt? I mean, what's the perfect beagle to you?
I prefer more of a tricolor beagle, and head down, chop mouth, preferably. I like a dog a little harder than what a lot of guys in our format runs, which is fine. But I want a lot of brains, a lot of line flow. I want a dog. I think in AKC, we've got a line in that rule book that says dogs are to pursue with an intent to overtake, and I think we've got a lot of our judges have taken that part out, the intent to overtake. A dog's supposed to be a little bit aggressive. It's not supposed to be crashing your race, but it better be trying to eat that rabbit if I'm running.
And what do you mean by crashing a race?
Well, we try to run as check-free as possible. I'm not saying it's possible to not have checks. I don't like what they call dog checks. A dog should flow on the line at as high a rate of speed as possible. Some days dogs can run really hard. Some days they're going to have to slow down a little bit and walk a rabbit. When I'm talking about crashing a race, if every 20 or 30 foot we're breaking down and having a check, there's probably somebody causing a problem.
I've seen that a time or two.
So now I think you come from UKC, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, the format that I've hunted to this point has been hunting beagle format, which I know a lot of guys describe as 100 yards in a cloud of dust, is what I hear.
Yeah, that's that. You got also out in the wild, a lot of these enclosures have a lot of mowed lanes in them and stuff, and rabbits will dart and dive on those mowed lanes. So a lot of our trials, you got to slow down and focus a little bit because you're out in the open. I wouldn't say enclosures have improved our dogs. I think they've caused a lot of problems in dogs that only get used to running in enclosures. We'll guess and gamble on those lanes a little bit. Sometimes it works for them, sometimes it doesn't. I would say probably 80% of the time I run in the wild. I enjoy running in the wild. Running's more natural and better in the wild. But sometimes in these enclosures with mowed lanes everywhere, dogs got to slow down a little bit or you're not going to run a risk.
Well, I want to switch gears just a little bit, and I want to talk about what it's like to be a professional handler. And how did you get into that? You mentioned your dad or grandfather, I think, had spent time being a professional handler, but how did you get into that?
Yeah, so my dad handled dogs. Well, to go back a little bit, when it started, I was probably 20 years old. Me and him started handling a few dogs just for some local people there when we would go to trials to pay for a little bit of gas. And he decided that he was going to take it to the next level and do it for a living. There had been a few professional handlers around in our sport before, but there's not a lot of them. I wouldn't say it's a good way to get rich quick or anything, but to get to run dogs all day, every day. Some days that's a good thing. Some days, some days not. But it's better than working for the man, I reckon. So I traveled the country and built substations for about 10 years and kind of got burned out of being on the road and was trying to figure out what my next move was. Had some people ask me to take some dogs and run them for them, and it just kind of went from there, and it's grown into something pretty big. So
I want to ask you about that. So when somebody hires you to hunt their hounds for them, are they hiring you to train them and prepare them and to get them ready for the trial and to hunt them in the trial, or do they just hire you to hunt them in the trial? The dog's already a good dog. They just for whatever reason want someone to hunt them in the trials for them, or is it both, or a little bit of each of those? I mean, what are they looking for out of you?
Well, everything I've got now, and most of the time, I train, condition, trial. If somebody local asks me to take one to a trial on a weekend, I will, for my trial fee. But most of the dogs stay with me, eat with me, come to me until either they're a field champion or somebody wants to move on from them, or there's a lot of guys that just send me dogs and say, hey, look at this dog and see if it's a trial, and a lot of them I send home, and a lot of them I keep and finish for these guys. So, but most dogs are being trained, conditioned, trialed at my house.
Okay. Well, I don't want any numbers or anything, but how does that work? Do people pay you by the hunt? Do they pay you by the win? How's that structure work?
So I've got a monthly flat rate for conditioning, feeding, worming, everything that goes into a dog at being in my house for a month, and then there is a trial fee, a set amount plus entry fee that is paid per trial.
So you do it all. I mean, you do everything from taking care of it, the health care of it, the food, everything.
Yes.
Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot of work. What is it about being a professional handler that you like the best? Now, I know you said it's a way of working for yourself and not the man, plus you get to hunt, which is what you enjoy, but what are some of the things that you really like about being a handler? I take it you're a pretty competitive person to be able to do this job.
Yeah, probably one of the most competitive people you've ever talked to. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's not. But, probably some of the most satisfying moments is seeing these guys that are good dog men and know they got good dogs, but don't have I tell people my price sometimes, and it sounds like a lot, but it's a lot less than a guy can travel around the country with one dog for. And, a lot of these guys that have good dogs, you don't have the means to get them all over the country and to the nationals and stuff like that. Seeing those guys get to win and compete at some of the big hunts through me is pretty rewarding most of the time. And that's something on top of the fact that I get to run dogs all day, every day. There's not many people that get to do that. But I get to do what I love every day, and I get to be competitive at it, and I get to run some of the best dogs in the country and help some really good people finish dogs and win big championships, and that's rewarding.
Mm-hmm. What's a typical customer look like for you? And maybe I want to just back up just a little bit. I remember years ago in the coon hunting side of things, knowing a guy who had competed for years and years and years and did very well. And then, he got older. And with age, you can't get around like you used to. And in his case, he couldn't hear. I mean, he couldn't call his dog and get it on the paper quick enough. So he ended up, with age, having to hire a handler to handle his dogs for him, and that worked out really well for him. But is that typical? Do you see, are your clients a lot of older folks that maybe need help? Or are they younger folks that maybe don't know what they're doing in a trial? Or are they, kind of in the middle? Maybe they want the titles on their dogs, but the competitive side, they get nervous when they're at a trial. I mean, you know how it is. But what does a typical customer look like for you?
Well, honestly, I mean, I have a wide variety. I have guys that I've got guys that have 6 to 8 dogs at my house at all times. I've got guys that get a good one every now and again and send them to me. Mm-hmm. I've got guys that start their young dogs and send them to me and just ask me to go through them and say, hey, out of this litter of 4, keep this one and get rid of the other 3. I've got a wide variety of customers, and I've got a really good group of guys that take care of me and keep me in dogs and keep me going. Mm-hmm. We got to win for them every weekend.
Well, that brings me to another question. It's really interesting that people use you in a lot of different ways to help them with their programs. But do you do some of that for yourself? You mentioned guys sending you started dogs or young dogs to kind of pick through them. But do you do that for yourself? Do you breed and start and sell your own puppies or young started dogs out of your stock?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
We've been me and my dad. We've been going on 30 years now. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we raise quite a few puppies and start them and go through them, and then we trial some of them. We've got guys across the country we partner up on with dogs that want to run some of them, and we try to keep our dogs out there and our keep pups out there out of our stud dogs and stuff like that, so people can see our bloodline and what's going on with them.
Well, are there any particular bloodlines that you like to see in your pedigrees?
Well, so our pedigrees, I mean, if you look at our pedigrees, we're pretty line bred for years and years and years now. Most of our stuff goes back to one female from years ago, and through her it goes to Crank's Chicken and 5-Star Smoky, and you're going to see a lot of Crank's Chicken, Rapid Run Little Caddy, and 5-Star Smoky throughout our pedigrees. We mix stuff in here and there when we see that we're lacking something or something can add to us, but we're pretty heavy line bred and stay that way and intend to stay that way for the most part.
Mm-hmm. This is kind of an interesting question I wanted to ask you, again, just based on lots of years of being out there, either trialing or gun hunting, out just pleasure hunting with friends. What's some of the craziest things that you've ever seen while you've been out hunting?
I think the craziest thing I've ever seen when I was a kid was a hawk actually take a rabbit out from in front of the dogs.
That is pretty crazy.
All I know is there was a shot fired and the rabbit hit the ground again, and another shot was fired and the rabbit was killed. And that was one of the craziest things I saw as growing up. That was one of the wildest things I've seen. And then as far as field trialing, I don't even know where to start on the crazy things I've seen field trialing. So.
Well, I've seen some crazy stuff too. It's really interesting. I saw one of the first crazy things I saw on a field trial was a dog run a turkey. That was pretty cool. And then I saw a couple dogs bay a raccoon up under a car in a guy's driveway. That was really interesting. And speaking of your hawk, this is a good story. I need to have this young girl on someday. But I was in a little competition hunt in the mountains, and the same thing. We were hunting, and we were getting ready to score the line on the rabbit, and this hawk swooped down, and the rabbit darted just in time. The hawk missed it. The rabbit we were running. That was pretty crazy. But yeah, you just see a lot of interesting things while you're out. I always like to try to ask that when I think about it. And given the number of years you've been hunting, I knew you'd have some good stories.
I've seen turkey and raccoons and pheasants and quail, and I don't know. I guess the birds must smell a lot like rabbits, because I've had a lot of good broke dogs, what I would call good broke dogs, that'll track a bird for some reason, a pheasant or a turkey or a quail. They'll turn deer down all day long, but they'll seem to track a bird for some reason.
Well, David, we'll go ahead and start wrapping it up. Is there anything that I didn't ask you about that I should have asked you? Anything you want to promote, or just any last thoughts you want to share?
No, I guess I would just say, reiterating when you're talking about new people wanting to get in, or not even new people, just people that want to get better. Mm-hmm. If you'll follow the dogs and watch the dogs, a good dog will teach you way more than any man ever teach you about running a rabbit.
That is so true. Well, David, for folks that may be interested in reaching out to you to learn more about the services you provide as a handler, trainer, and even helping them pick and choose what hounds they should keep out of their started dogs, is there a way that they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, on my personal page, David Sawyer, or on the Rapid Run Beagles page on Facebook. I can be reached either way. So.
Well, very good. Well, again, thank you so much. This has been super interesting, and I really appreciate you taking a little time out to share your story, your background with our audience.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for listening to Buff in the Rough, and remember to like and subscribe if you want to be notified when we have new content available. And please send comments and suggestions to buffintherough@gmail.com.